Hi guys, it's Ray here from Man City Fan TV. I want to start off this video by saying we support the petition to save Bellevue. If you don't know anything about Bellevue, it's a historic part of Manchester. I mean, it's a bit of my childhood. We used to go there as kids. I think they've still got the dog track there. And I think tonight I'm going to see the stock cars. So if you can do anything to support Bellevue, we'd be grateful, as they would too. A normal video today. I know you guys have absolutely loved the live stuff we've been doing pretty much every day for 10, 12 days now, maybe even longer. And it's great because it's immediate. You know, you get the immediate questions, immediate responses. There's none of this that you see sometimes elsewhere where people are stringing out a 30-second story into 8 or 10 minutes. You know, there's no point. You guys ask the question, you get the answers. If there's nothing to talk about on a particular subject, you get the answer quickly, you move on. And it's not, I mean, there is some repetition because people are joining the debate late. If we're on for 30 minutes or an hour, you know, there's people joining after 30, 40 minutes and asking the same questions that were asked at the start. But that's not too bad because you can always get a different twist. But there's none of this continuous who can we get for defensive midfielder? What are our options at left back? It's regurgitation of you know, 7 or 10 minute videos. It's pointless. So, you know, we love that live streaming, and I hope you guys do too. Now today I'm going to talk about something that I read in the papers this morning about Uli Hoeness. Now, I hope I get his name right. Now, Uli Hoeness was a 1974 World Cup winner with Germany, but he's been rather outspoken this week, and I think it's interesting to see what he said and maybe why he said it as well. You know, with all the furore around Man City, with all the investigations from all different parties, and you know, there's rumours that it's, you know, who's instigating all this, and you look behind the cartel, you know, of the old, was it the G14 or the G12, the big clubs in Europe, your Bayern Munich, your Liverpool, your Man United, Arsenal, AC Milan, Inter, and the clubs in Italy and Spain, the big clubs who all, you know, basically we call them the cartel clubs, the old clubs, and the old power clubs. They still want to cling on to power. Now, Uli Hoeness is the president of Bayern Munich, and so what he says obviously carries some weight, and it's important. And it's revealed this morning that apparently, according to one of the papers, City are asking Uli Hoeness for an apology for some things he said a few days ago. And if they don't get the apology that they demand, then they'll send in their legal team. So I think it's worth looking back to see what, first of all, what Uli Hoeness has said, and the apparent City response, and a little bit more information about Uli Hoeness, the man, because that's, if you don't know already, that's quite interesting. So let's start off by having a look at what Uli Hoeness said in the first place. Now, Bayern Munich are going to undergo a major upheaval this summer with some of their long-standing players leaving, like Frank Ribery and Arjen Robben, who've been there for, I think Frank Ribery joined over 10 years ago, and Robben was about 9 or 10 years ago. And so they're going to have a big upheaval. They've got to spend a lot of money getting in new players. And Hoeness, he talked about the contrast between the way Bayern go about making big signings and the way City do. What he said was, my friend Pep told me what happens when he wants a player who costs 100 million euros. He gets some videos of the player and flies to see the sheikh. Then there is an opulent meal, and you look over the videos and the sheikh transfers the sum. I'm proud that in such cases we aren't going to the credit department but the bank's fixed income department. Now, that's quite a bit of a, you know, I think we said at the time, that's a bit of a slur. It's a bit of an outrageous statement, and it's quite patently untrue. I mean, besides anything else, I think Andy tweeted, we've never spent 100 million euros on a player. The most we've ever spent is 60 million quid, which I think in today's money is less than 70 million euros. So, you know, don't just make numbers up, Uli, you know, because it's not good for you. And I'll come back to that about making numbers up in a minute. So this is what Uli Hoeness has said. And so let's have a quick look at the alleged response behind the scenes. This is what the papers say from Man City. Now, apparently, City are furious at what they see as a slur as the way on the conduct and the way they do business. Apparently, a senior source at the club said it was the remark of a smug, arrogant egotist. We are also concerned that there may be a racist element to what Hoeness has claimed. And that was reported in the Sunday Mirror. Now, why would Hoeness say such ridiculous things? I mean, there is obviously an issue with Bayern Munich, because since Pep left Bayern Munich, Bayern Munich haven't been, let's say, as successful as in the past. I mean, they've struggled this season, I think, and only through the demise a little bit of Dortmund have Bayern Munich managed to clamber their way back to the top of the table. But they're struggling. They don't want to be spending the huge sums of money that they're having to spend because of clubs like City. When Chelsea came along a few years back, Chelsea changed the landscape. They started spending big money, getting big players on top money, and other clubs had to compete. And this is one of the big gripes with these cartel clubs. They don't like the fact that they're having to spend more money than they'd like. They'd like, obviously, to save money, save as much as possible. And the likes of Man City and others pushing the transfer spending to such limits. And City aren't really doing that anymore. We spent 60 million quid last year, that's all. So, but it's your Barcelonas and Real Madrids, and they complain as well that they're having to pay more. And and with PSG, I think the biggest ones are PSG paying 200 million for Neymar, then obviously that's going to distort the market. And clubs like Bayern Munich don't want to spend that extra money. They want to save that extra money. So, if at all possible, they want to curtail City spending. Now, for example, if we get an issue with financial fair play, banned from Europe, very, very unlikely in my opinion, then that can obviously help Bayern Munich. If we get a transfer ban from FIFA, for instance, that's going to help Bayern Munich, because that may help to deflate a little bit or cool the transfer market. If we can't go out and spend for 2 windows, then players will have fewer options, and obviously the selling clubs won't be able to push the prices as high as they possibly think they can. So let's have a quick look at Hoeness before finishing on this topic about Uli Hoeness, the man. Now, Uli Hoeness is the president of Bayern Munich, and he was only recently released from I think it was a 3.5-year prison sentence for tax evasion, tax fraud. You can semantics here, but some papers call it tax evasion, some papers call it tax fraud. Now, when he, initially they were looking at a 3.5 million evasion of tax in Germany, and that suddenly he admitted that it wasn't 3.5 million. Once he started looking, he said it was about 18.5 million. And by the time the German tax authorities had finished their investigations, they claimed, and his defence team admitted this, that he owed almost 30 million euros in tax that he'd evaded. Just get your head around that number. He evaded paying 30 million, almost 30 million euros in tax. Now, this is the guy that wants to comment about Man City and the way we spend our money, and what Pep does, and what Sheikh Mansour does. I don't think he's on solid ground. I don't think he's that kind of respected individual to comment upon City. I mean, he's got no respect anymore. And look at Bayern Munich. The guy went to jail for this tax evasion, tax fraud, and he pretty much comes back, and he's a club president. It says pretty much everything you need to know about Bayern Munich these days. So that's Uli Hoeness. That's what he's after. He's after a bit of noise. He wants to throw more petrol onto the flames, the burning flames of Man City that he hopes will be with all these investigations with FIFA and UEFA and the Premier League and anybody else who wants to have a look at us. So he just wants to throw more mud and hope that some of it sticks. But it's what he said is wrong. It's obviously factually incorrect, and I don't even believe he's Pep's friend. He's one of these Ian Abrahams, the Moose on TalkSport. He's a friend of everybody, and you see him putting up pictures of somebody when it's their birthday, saying "my friend," and he might be in photobombing in the background, or the person might be in an uncomfortable picture. Well, Uli Hoeness is a pretty similar kind of guy. I don't think Pep's his friend, and if he was, he certainly wouldn't be after this episode. So you can see they're still running scared. The big teams in Europe, they're still running scared of City. Bayern Munich got pumped out by Liverpool, you know, at the round of 16, didn't even get to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. So they're struggling domestically, and in Europe as well. And their top brass are coming out and having a pop at City and have a pop at Pep, have it Sheikh Mansour, anything they can. It's a lot of rubbish. I wouldn't worry about it again. We're in an international break, you know, and all sorts of rubbish is coming out. People are pumping out stories because there's nothing else for them to do, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's in the papers, whether it's on Sky. Rubbish rumours and stories, and pretty much a waste of time. Stick to your live streams, guys. Anyway, guys, if you haven't already subscribed to our channel, great if you could do so. Click the bell icon so you're notified as soon as new videos come out, and we'll see you around, Blues.